Hi, I'm Stephanie Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Tomino's Hell. Japanese poet Sajio Yaso published a poem in 1919 about the destruction and devastation of the war. He poured his heart and soul into the work so much that the urban legend says the poem is cursed. Mio's eyes flew open as she gasped for air. She didn't know why she was outside on the ground, surrounded by emergency workers, or how she even got there. She looked and saw the book titled Saken, meaning gold dust, and that's when everything came flooding back. Mio had always been different, or according to her father, a disappointment who worked in a coffee shop. She had just graduated from Osaka University and was supposed to be headed to medical school, but she never really cared about helping people. Instead, Mio longed to become a successful poet. She took a job as a barista so she could make ends meet while pursuing her dreams. After going through tons of books in the library, she headed to the desk to check them out. The librarian scanned each book, then came to a sudden halt as she held up a collection of poetry titled Saken. "Where did you find this?" she asked in surprise. It wasn't supposed to be on the shelf. The librarian told Mio it was not to be borrowed. The book contained a cursed poem called Tomino's Hell. Anyone who read it or heard the poem out loud suffered terribly, often fatally. The famous director Suji Terayama had made a movie based on the poem and had then died young. Some blamed his sudden death on the curse. The panicked librarian set the book aside while the librarian helped the next customer. Mio snatched the forbidden book from the counter and headed to work. Asuka, Mio's manager, called her out for being late again, but she paid no mind to her manager. Instead, began to daydream, eventually rhyming words, dancing through her head as she went through the motions of making mocha macchiatos. She snapped back to reality quickly when Asuka posted a sign that read, "Open Mic Night." Mio decided this was her chance to sign up and recite a poem she had in her journal. As she flipped through her journal, she began to have second thoughts. Instead, she figured she would look for inspiration in other books she had. The next day, Mio told Asuka she wouldn't be performing her poem. Asuka laughed, saying she knew Mio would bail. Asuka chuckled at her with that mockingbird screech. Her face lit up with joy at her employee's expense. It was in that moment that Mio snapped back and said, "Actually, I am going to read a poem, just not my own." When it was her turn, she pulled out the forbidden book she'd stolen from the library. She finally read Tomino's poem. It was as dark and twisted as she hoped, and it strangely comforted her. The story of Tomino's descending into hell resonated with her deeply. She felt herself spiraling towards darkness, questioning if she'd chosen the right path in life. Tomino's hell. Elder sister vomits blood, younger sister breathing fire, while sweet little Tomino just spits up the jewels. All alone does Tomino go, falling into that hell. The poem was gruesome, not to Asuka's taste, and she turned quickly to go into the kitchen, not realizing she knocked over a candle. Mio continued. A hell of utter darkness without even flowers. Is Tomino's big sister the one who whips him? The purpose of scourging hangs dark in his mind, lashing and thrashing him. Mio saw a flame out of the corner of her eye. In the back, a tablecloth was on fire. But with all eyes on her, she didn't want to pass up the attention. With a smile, Mio read on. "Into the blackest of hells, guide him now, I pray." When her audience finally smelled the smoke, they bolted towards the exits, but the route to the front door was covered in flames. The side door had been locked to keep anyone from sneaking into the open mic night. Asuka's fingernails tore and bled from clawing at it, trying to get out, but they were all trapped. Despite the blood-curdling screams and the flames closing in, Mio kept reading. She was determined to finish the cursed poem. And that was the last thing she remembered, before waking up disoriented outside the smoking cafe, realizing she had been rescued by a firefighter. She saw Asuka's dead, burnt body laying close by, covered in ash. Mio couldn't help but wonder if the curse was real. Now that was poetic justice. Mio figured she would find out for sure when she read the poem again at the next open mic night.